Anita, you can go ahead.
Lakshmi, could you mute everyone, please?
Yeah.
Hello and greetings to all. I extend a warm welcome to everyone who has joined today on the eve of our 75th Independence Day for the Shri Rajni Turakhia Memorial Optometry Lecture Series in association with Optometry Council of India and supported by Hoya, Japanese Technology for Precise Vision. I would now like to invite Ms. Lakshmi Shinde, CEO of Optometry Council of India, to speak a few words. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Hello, everybody. I think it's an honor and pride for OCI to actually collaborate with Hoya to be part of this Shri Rajni Turakhia Memorial Lecture Series. For me, he's always been Rajni Uncle, so maybe I will address him as Rajni Uncle. He was definitely inspiration and also, what can I say, maybe somebody I look up to in a position that I'm working as OCI today. There is a small video that a person called Devin Joshi has put together in memory of Rajni Uncle. So with I'd like to play that. A small request, if everybody can put your mic on mute, that will help us to enjoy the video as well. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to Snehal for sharing this as well with us. Thank you, Snehal, for being here as well for the inaugural lecture.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks to all of you.
I'd also like to share one more video from a person called, somebody who's commonly called as Ramachandran P. Sanjay, if you can actually, come on video, then I can introduce you to everybody as well. Sanjay is heading Hoya, India, and thankful to them for having supported this entire series. And Sanjay is the one who came up with this idea that they want to dedicate the series in memory of Rajni Uncle. So all credit goes to them and their team for having, I think it's a great gesture from their part to dedicate the entire series in a person's name who has meant so much to optometry as well as to the optical industry. So thanks, Sanjay, for that. Can everybody see the video?
No.
It's not yet started playing, Lakshmi.
Okay, 1 minute.
So in the meantime, if I can speak a few words about Mr. P. Ramachandran. So we now have a message from a leading person in optical industry, Mr. P. Ramachandran, who is popularly known as Ram and who has had a long association with Shri Rajni Turakhia. Mr. Ram is an eyewear consultant and honorary advisor for India Vision Institute and has served the optical industry for over 3 decades. So let's hear it from Mr. Ram.
Good morning, everyone.
Now can you hear?
It's been great pleasure and indeed an honor to open the series of Rajni Turakhia's memorial lecture conducted by Optometry Council of India. Having known Rajni Bhai, as he was fondly referred to, since probably 1988, perhaps more than 3 decades, what strikes me most is his tremendous level of energy and enthusiasm. He can the old and youth alike, and he can put you into absolute comfort when you talk to him. His dedication to work has been remarkable, to say the least. Everybody knows who have been in the industry about what he has done for the industry and for the optometry as a profession. Rajni Bhai and his brother, Kiran Bhai, could capture the customer's need and suggest accordingly the best options for them. As early as probably in the late early 2000s, wherein the dispensing was not to the standards what it should have been, and they were much ahead of the standards then. There are many moments that come my way now from the Broadway store where they used to be, and my experience goes a long way watching them. And I've learned a lot about how to get customer satisfaction and derive happiness out of seeing happy customers. Atmanirbhar is what we're talking about today. Rajni Bhai demonstrated by bringing in leading opticians in Chennai. I think many of you will be knowing that they were the first one to start a laboratory for plastic lenses more than 2 decades back. And they're way ahead of time and had gotten latest equipments and wanted to do the best of products in India. And it turned out to be one of those very innovative way of bringing opticians together so long back. So what we learned from that is working together, coexisting is a quality that I learned from him. And I think that is what's the essence of making anybody successful. He also had an amazing memory, coupled with notes that he would refer to of the past meetings. So if I commit something to him, and then if I probably go a bit astray in that, then he would always come back to that point what I had spoken to him, seeing the notes. And that is some brilliant quality which he had. And on the other hand, he was very committed, because if he gives you a commitment, he will honor it to the last. And I think whatever position he's in, he would do that. One of the things which also, probably I would like to take this occasion to share this with you is that about you told me about in 2010 in New Delhi, and this is what I had spoken about. He said, dream big and achieve it. It's one of those meetings where he was addressing us, and this is something which he said to me and said that go for it. And this is a quality which I think, and I treasure this because this is something which is on my table to keep motivating myself. So having seen him in the close quarters, and even as last as before his demise, and when I met him and he said that just make sure that you also your family, and that's more important, and the best for you to know if you're doing well is to have a good health. That's the best way to see whether you're in good state and good health. So many things to say about, but I would only say that this is an occasion that in remembrance of Mr. Rajni Turakhia, that this series of lecture has been conducted by OCI, and I wish all the best for the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Ram, for that wonderful message. In fact, you were beautifully reminiscing your association with Shri Rajni Turakhia and the learnings you derived from him. He was indeed a larger-than-life person. So moving ahead, I would now like to invite Mr. Jayanta, who is the chair of Optometry Council of India, to speak a few words as well as inaugurate the session today. Over to you, Jayanta.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
You can see me? Yeah, okay. So welcome everybody in this Shri Rajni Memorial session. And this is organized by Optometry Council of India and supported by where I also extend my welcome to Mr. Abhinav Maharwal, who is going to be the speaker of today's session. And thanks to Hoya and Sanjay ji for supporting this memorial session on behalf of OCI. And this, I think also this the people attending this session, it will be beneficial to them and will be enlightened to dispensing side of this session. So let us enjoy. So I will not take much time. So let's begin it.
Thank you, Jayanta. We now move on to today's topic, which is on correcting presbyopia with spectacles. To present this topic, we have optometrist Abhinav Meherwal. Optometrist Abhinav Meherwal is currently working as the managing director of the 40-year-old Meherwal Optical Company Group, which includes the Eye Destination, 99 Plus Optical Shoppe Private Limited, Vision Technology India, and Meherwal Optical Company Private Limited. He is a practicing optometrist with 12 years of experience with his optometry clinic and opticals, the Eye Destination. Apart from general optometry, he also practices vision therapy, low vision, and specialty contact lenses. He graduated from the prestigious Elite School of Optometry in the year 2009. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to the panelists of today's session, Mr. Bhupesh Nagpal, a senior optometrist who graduated from the prestigious Elite School of Optometry in 1990 and had several positions before starting his own practice by the name of Frame Crafters Opticians in 2004. Joining him is Ms. Reshma from Hoya. Over to you, Abhinav.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for my introduction. And I would also like to thank OCI, especially Lakshmi ma'am, the Turakhia family and Hoya for giving me this opportunity to be among with you. So friends, like me, if presbyopia is one topic that either excites you or scares you, then you are in the right place today. And believe me, stay with me till the end, and I will ensure that you get some amazing takeaways for your practice today, as the entire session is based on the practical experience and the practical experience. So moving ahead, presbyopia, as we all know, it's when the difficulty for seeing near arises. Basically, what happens physiologically is that your amplitude of accommodation is reducing constantly by the age to such an extent that you find it difficult to use your natural eyes accommodation to read. So I would request Paula to shoot the first poll, the first question to our audience, which is coming on your screen now. So guys, you have to participate. This has to be a two-way session. So do let me know the presbyopia is expected when amplitude of accommodation is above 5 diopters, below 5 diopters, or only when age is 40. So I need your answers. Just click on your screen. Can everybody see the poll on their screen?
Yeah, Abhinav, the answers are also going up.
Great.
We'll give 40 seconds. So once 40 seconds is over, I'll close the poll.
Sure. Perfect. Okay, so the majority of us has answered only when the age is 40. But my dear friends, when the amplitude of accommodation recedes, when it's below 5 diopters, that is when we call that the presbyopia is coming. So there is no fixed age. Generally, you are right. It happens around the 40 years of age, but it's not necessary.
Paula,
So
can
moving
you
ahead.
mute all the others, please? Or can people mute themselves?
Yeah, that would be great. So guys, as we have already studied in our optometry, that amplitude of accommodation keeps on reducing with age. So by the time you're 60 years of age, it actually becomes zero. So do happens with our near point. It keeps on receding. We keep on shifting things farther and farther away. As far as the theory goes, there are many types of presbyopia, but I'm going to discuss only the very few which we encounter on a day-to-day practice. The first one is the incipient presbyopia, or we also call it as an early presbyopia, where the presbyopia is still on the borderline, is on the beginning. The symptoms are not as profound. Patients generally don't complain except for finding difficult to read in dim lights, and patients are generally not receptive to our reading glasses or progressives or bifocals at this stage. But these patients can be corrected by digital lenses. And what are these digital lenses? I will tell you about the later half of the session. Then comes the stage of functional presbyopia. Now the patient cannot do actually without glasses. They need glasses to see clearly and do their work. And another, not so common, but still, you will find 1 in 100 patients probably in India, that where the patients have more than a normal pupil size. So my friends, doing their pupil examination is also very important. And if their pupil size you feel is bigger than the normal, check their depth perception, because generally the depth perception of such patients is very poor. And when you correct them with single vision glasses, they are not so happy because their range is poor. So normally we tend to prescribe either the workspace lenses or the indoor progressives or the outdoor progressives for them. Now, what are the factors which actually affect presbyopia, and we need to keep it in our mind? Age, we have already discussed. Hyperopia, because if there is any amount of latent hyperopia which is present, it can affect the dynamics. You need to understand the patient's occupation, their near vision demands, whether they are a jeweler who working close up or a watchmaker, or what kind of profession they are in. Their gender, females tend to develop presbyopia in the early stage. People with shorter height, shorter hands, they tend to have, they require higher ads. Same thing goes if they had any history of ocular diseases or trauma. Systemic diseases are very important. So you need to know that whether they are having diabetes or any myasthenia gravis or any other systemic diseases which can affect the accommodative condition of eye. And same goes with the drugs, because many patients these days are antidepressants, anti-anxiety, or antihistamines. They are consuming alcohols a lot. So that also you need to keep in mind, and other factors are also there. The most common sign and symptoms that we encounter is that the patient puts away the reading material further to read. They tend to squeeze their eyes. They get frequent headaches, eye strain. They can get watering and also redness. Now, when coming to the prescribing glasses for presbyopia, what are the options and how do we go about it? So first and foremost is doing a very good refraction to correct their distance vision. And you need to do binocular balancing. You need to do duochrome. You need to refine their axes by JCC, because if the distance vision is corrected fine, the chances of you going wrong will reduce dramatically, because this is one step where most of the optometrists actually go wrong. And we need to take consideration what are the patient's habitual working distance to, and overcorrection should be avoided. And the most important part, presbyopic ad should leave certain percentage of amplitude of accommodation in reserve. And as a thumb rule, we normally leave half to one third of amplitude of accommodation in reserve when correcting for presbyopes. And these are the several techniques. Many techniques are there, and most of these techniques give you a good tentative estimation. The popular one, the most common one I am going to discuss here with you, is with the amplitude of accommodation. So amplitude of accommodation can easily be measured by push-up method, minus lens to blur method, or by simply using an RAF ruler. So the amount of ad can be resulted with this. And how it can be done? This is a simple RAF ruler or the Prince ruler that we have in our practice. Now, for example, if your patient is having a working distance at 40 centimeters, and with RF ruler, you estimate their amplitude of accommodation is 2 diopters. So their working distance, their accommodation required is 2.5, accommodation in reserve. We keep half of the accommodation to be in reserve. So we keep 1 diopter to be in reserve, and the resultant tentative ad that we arrive at is 1.5. So now, for coming the next question to you on your screen using the same method.
Ola, can you post the poll? Yeah.
So guys, let's learn it practically. एक example देखते हैं. Try to do it.
The question
I
is
guess
not
there is
on.
no worries, no worries. Probably there is some issue. It does happen in this digital world, and we are all prepared for that. So simply, guys, if suppose your patient's working distance is 25 centimeters and amplitude is 1.5 diopters. Now, what should be their near addition? Now, going by a rule and keeping their 1/3 accommodation to be in reserve, that is 0.5, we arrive at a tentative add of +3 diopters. And guys, trust me, it is a very good method to arrive at a tentative add. And another method of measuring the amplitude of accommodation is by using the Hofstadter formula. Normally, we refer to the minimum range, that is 15 minus 0.25 of your age. Going ahead, another method popular NRA by 2. An example we can see, if suppose your patient is reading a fine print with +1 diopters, and the blurring occurs when the add is increased to +2 diopters and reduced to 1.5. Now his range is 1.5. Now what do you think his calculated add would be? So it's very simple. You add 0.5 with +2, it becomes 2.5 divided by 2. So the recommended tentative add would be 1.25. So friends, all these methods that we have discussed or what we have not discussed has been found by several studies. They tend to give us more or less similar data and near to the actual ads. So any method you follow, the most important thing which you need to keep into mind is that considering the patient's needs. So what are the patient needs that you need to consider? The patient's working distance. What is the nature of work? The physical nature of the patient. Unka height kaisa hai, whether they are short-heighted, they have longer hands, what's their posture, the illumination level, the lighting levels under which they work, the status of accommodation convergence relationship, and never change the amount of addition suddenly. Give a gradual increase. Don't increase from 1 diopter to 2.5 diopters. Make it in the steps. Now let's see that how in relation with various refractive errors the presbyopia behaves. So in hypermetropia, so the patient tends to accept the stronger converging lenses, whereas in the myopia, the presbyopia tends to happen at the later age in life. So we tend to have weaker converging lenses. In the cases of anisometropia, you must always keep it in mind that you need to check their additions monocularly also, because unequal adds are prescribed for them. Keeping in mind the binocular balancing, it's very important. And at times when you prescribe these patients with bifocals, they end up having troubles because it causes a vertical prismatic effect. You must avoid them. So they are specially designed slab of lenses, and mostly these sort of patients do very well with single vision reading glasses. So in a nutshell, you must remember that presbyopia management is very important. You need to understand the quality of life issues the patient is facing and need to treat that. What the patient requirements is. Now going on the managing of presbyopia through glasses. Now what are the options that we have? The most common is the over-the-counter reading glasses, ready-made chashma. It's available in the hypermarkets, in the supermarkets, in the medical stores, opticians, in libraries, everywhere. So it's convenient, readily available, but the problem is you cannot customize them. It's good for people who are ametros, probably for distance. For temporary use, it is fine, but we generally as practitioners don't recommend them for the constant use. Then the second available option is the customized single vision chashma. The pass ka chashma, as many people call it. People have a very good field of vision, and you can customize them. You can give them AR coatings, you can give them blue light filters or tints. It's very easy to handle, very easy to carry, but you tend to forget them very easily. And sometimes the osmosis is not appreciated by the patient when they are asked to wear their glasses like this. So what are the other options that we have in this modern world? And this is something new. The digital lenses that we have now in the market, which are generally prescribed for incipient presbyopics or early presbyopic patients, and even the younger populations who have accommodative insufficiency. These lenses have an ad starting from zero point 0.4 diopters and going up to many things. You can see here an example of one company. They start with a near ad of 0.37 diopters and going up to 0.90 diopters. And these are very effective in relieving the asthenopic symptoms, especially for the people who are working for long hours or either on computers or they're studying a lot. The next option, which is very common, very old, पिछले 250 सालों से है, it's there since last 250 years, is bifocals. I'm not very fond of them until it is really required. As you already know, Benjamin Franklin invented them in 1784. The technology has not changed much beyond that. We have, these are the common three types of D bifocals, moon bifocals, and straight line bifocals, which are commonly prescribed in younger kids who have accommodative esotropias. And how do we do the fitting of bifocals? So generally you need to remember here that the marking, that the beginning of the near vision area or that line should be coinciding with the lower limbus of your cornea. And the cases of younger kids, PD, segment size, segment height, and segment decentration. Moving on, there was another category, trifocals. Many people of this generation actually have not even seen these lenses, so I'm not going to discuss much about it. Going ahead, these are the new lenses which are there, workspace lenses. Many companies have these lenses mainly for near and intermediate. So these lenses work from anywhere from 35-40 centimeters to up to 1 meter of a distance. So people who do a lot of desk work, and they are uncomfortable with their bifocals or their regular progressives, and they want an additional occupational lenses, then this is a fantastic choice because they can work without any limitation of a vision corridor. They can work for longer hours. As you can see in this image, these lenses correct basically the intermediate and near portion without any demarcation line. And since there is a gradual progression, the vision is very comfortable. So it's advised for the people who do a closer work, people above the age of 50 requiring 2 or more ad, whose basically the range is very low, people working on the computers for long hours, people who requiring the occupational lenses alongside their progressives, and people who are working on the bigger computer screens like stockbrokers, especially like and other example is architects who work on the bigger screens. They need to have the bigger view area and they don't want that limitation of progressives or bifocals coming into play. Another new technology which is there to correct presbyopia is indoor progressives. Yes, my friends, for people who are emetropes for distance, but they do a lot of active working inside their office. They see presentations, they do computer work, they do regular meetings, and also their near vision tasks. Then this is a wonderful choice because this gives you an extended intermediate range, which extends up to from your near reading point to up to 3 meters. So they work perfectly well within your home or within your office. So companies have various types of them, ranging from 3 meters extension, extending to 2 meters, 1 meter, depending upon the patient's requirement. And you see the most of the activities that we actually do inside our office or in our homes is covered by these indoor progressives. So this is also as an important option, which is also becoming popular day by day. And last and not the least, our favorite, the multifocals. Why our favorite? Because the revenue wise and the popularity of progressives has gone to the next level now. They're ideal for constant use, for simultaneous vision, for distance, intermediate and near, and they give a wonderful comfort. So when fitting progressives, the things which we need to keep in mind is to take the uniocular PD for both distance and near. The segment height has to be taken. If you need to ensure whether any additional decentration is required in the cases of strabismic patients, and pupillary marking has to be taken. And I have shown this example. The first image, this never happens, but you should make sure that you practice your pupil marking even for the single vision lenses. Because once you start doing that over the period of time, your pupil markings becomes very good. And I think it will be covered in detail in the later sessions also. And segment height can be derived through this popular boxing system that we use. So what are the indications of progressives? So people who are the first time wearers, so early presbyopia, people who have simultaneous vision requirements for distance, near and intermediate, people who want a good cosmetic look. They don't want to wear their glasses like this, or they don't want the bifocal segment lines to be seen. People who are pseudophakics, people who move their heads a lot to see in the sides, who are head movers, and high patient motivation. This is the foremost, and it's a very important factor. And what are the contraindications for progressives? So patients who are actually satisfied with their reading glasses or bifocals, and if you put them zabardasti on the progressives, they won't be satisfied. Guys, you got to think logically. The kind of visual field, the visual angle that a single vision reading glass is providing, a progressive can never give. So this goal setting has to be clear. This expectation setting with your patient has to be clear. Patients who are impatient, very important, or intolerant, generally they don't adapt to the progressives because they don't want to move their head. High add requirements of more than 3.5 diopters are generally not possible in most of the products. People having significant vertical muscle imbalances are poor patients, and significant anisometropia, and people who move their eyes more than their head. They generally move their eyes. They also do very poorly with the progressives. So important take-home messages here. If you are prescribing the regular large corridor lenses still, try to give a, try to increase the add by plus 0.25. Make sure that your progressives are not fitting too low. Train the patient to how to use the progressives effectively, because it's very important. Ask them to use their nose as a pointer and move it wherever they want to see. And be aware about all the options and lens designs like indoor progressives, workspace lenses, and digital lenses. So let's discuss few of the cases here which should help us to broaden our mind, jo aake khulega apna. So let us see a presbyopia case. So Mr. Rahul came to our clinic and he couldn't believe he just turned 40. And when he began to have headaches and blurring of vision with prolonged reading, so he never had worn any glasses. So he came to us. He had good vision for distance, but his near point were receding, which was obviously not enough for a sustained close work. So we did the refraction for him. He was slightly hyperopic, and he was accepting an addition of plus point of 1 diopters. When we checked his amplitude of accommodation, it was 5 diopters. So do you think that we should be prescribing this add to this patient? Ideally, no. Because when you see here, his amplitude of accommodation is fairly well, which suggests that there is something else to it. So we did a cycloplegic refraction and we found that he is actually a latent hyperopia patient. So post-cycloplegic, we prescribed him this number plus 1.25 and plus 1.5, the single vision lenses. He was happy. All of his symptoms were gone. He was not requiring any progressives or bifocal corrections at this age. So you should always remember, whenever a patient is coming to you, you should be open, you should evaluate the case objectively, and measuring the amplitude of accommodation is so important, as we realized in this case. Now let's discuss another case of a myopic patient. Now Miss Anita ji, she came to us and she's 41 years and she came with a chief complaint of burning of her eyes because some aerosol hairspray fell into her on her face and her eyes, and otherwise she's not having any visual complaints. She was working as a secretary and wearing 10-year-old pair of glasses, which she removed while working for her desk work. Now we checked her vision. Her vision was 20 by 25, and her near point of accommodation without glasses was 25 centimeters. Her amplitude of accommodation was 2.5. So our refractionist thought that her amplitude of accommodation is too low. So why not prescribe her some add? So they prescribed her add of plus 1 diopters, with which her near vision range was 30 to 90 centimeters of range. So do you think that the optometrist did the right thing here? Or do you think that something else would have happened? What would have happened, my friends? Miss Anita was highly unhappy with her new glasses. And why? What was the reason? Because Anita's first and foremost chief complaint was entirely about a different problem. Remember, she was not having any difficulty whatsoever with her vision. She had ample accommodative range when she removed her glasses. Her new progressives provided less power, lesser magnification uh, compared to her unaided vision that she was using. So ideally speaking, it's not necessarily sometimes to push the progressives or bifocals to such patients. We need to wait for the right time and the right corrections. So in a nutshell, if I talk about presbyopia, what is it? In my 12 years of experience, I believe correcting presbyopia is more of an art than science. Keep your eyes open, keep your mind open. This is Abhinav Verwal, your vision dost who I commonly call. So for further reading, you can refer to the Bible which are called Fine Arts of Prescribing Glasses by Benjamin Wilder and Melvin Rubin. So you can do this for the better learning experience. You can keep in touch with me through an email, or you can connect with me on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. This is Abhinav Verwal, optometrist and your vision dost. See you once again. Thank you, OCI, for this wonderful session and wonderful opportunity to present this topic among you all. And I hope there would be some takeaways for you today. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anita.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. It was so very interesting. You took us through everything about presbyopia. It was truly a refresher for all of us. I'm sure all of you would agree to what I'm just telling now, because it was so beautifully taken. He started with what presbyopia is all about, the factors contributing towards presbyopia, what are the types, and the case discussions at the end were really beautiful, because it really brought out the essence of the entire talk by you. So thank you so much, Abhinav, for enlightening us on this very good topic that you spoke about. So before I start the panel discussion, I have one small announcement for all those who have joined us today. You need to stay till the end of the session, because you will need to fill a survey, because certificates will be issued only when you attempt the survey, right? So to begin with, we have a question which has come up in the chat box. Someone asking, why should we give 0.25 diopters more additional power when you are prescribing or dispensing a larger frame? So they want to get a clearer view of this concept of prescribing slightly more addition for a larger
Can I
frame.
answer that, Anita?
Sure,
as it was brought up by me during my presentation. So friends, generally you see in the trend these days, larger frames are in trend. And normally what happens when you prescribe the progressives with shorter corridor, so it's fine. They don't need to move their eyes too low. But if a patient has such requirements, where you need to fit the regular progressives because they have a lot of intermediate working, what we have seen in a general practice that, prescribing that 0.25 add more than what they were accepting. But yes, remember, if you are already overcorrecting them during a refraction, you need not overprescribe them. This I am talking when you do after a proper binocular balancing, you measure their amplitude of accommodation, and you give this ad, it becomes easier for them, and they don't need to, look through the very lower part of the lenses. But if you're going for the good, you can see the latest freeform lenses or the other lenses or the shorter corridor, you need not do that.
Thanks, Abhinav, for clarifying that. We have one more person who wants to know why a high myope does not require addition for NIA.
Oh my God. So it's, I would say, in the basics of our opticianry or basics of our optometry, I would simply tell you, myopia ko kya bolte hain? What do we call myopia otherwise? It's called as nearsightedness, my friends, because a person can actually see things clearly for near. So by far the signs of it, they have good amount of accommodation intact till their later part of the stages also. So in your practice, you will find that myopic patients generally do not complain about their near vision problems even till 43, 45, and even 46 years of age, because their amplitude of accommodation is intact, and they can they can remove their glasses and all these habits they do. So they don't actually need any ads at earlier age. But if you see in the hyperopic patients who have latent hyperopia, or even not latent hyperopia, but they have uncorrected hyperopic patients, because generally the patients don't wear plus 0.5 or 0.75 of hyperopia correction before 40 years of age, they tend to require their near vision corrections sooner in life.
Thanks, Abhinav, for clarifying that.
Can, can
I
I
would,
put an add to what he was explaining? Normally, if ever the patient is -3, -4, and if ever they remove their glasses, they read things more clearly because of the magnification happening in the glasses or without the glasses. And if ever we're giving them +1 or 1.5 and give them a reading glass, they don't see as crisply because the magnification is missing. So people, low myopes, they actually tend to read without the glasses, and they don't prefer the reading ad instead. It's something like if ever we -4, we remove the glasses, we are adding a +4 and making the person emetrope. And with adding a +4, we actually giving her a higher ad. So the magnification will be much more. Does that clear the question?
yeah, thanks, Bhupesh, for adding that bit of information. It's really very valuable. So I have a question for you, Bhupesh. Like Abhinav did mention in his talk about the importance of refraction. He did mention about binocular balancing and all that. So you are in practice as well. So how often do people actually perform binocular balancing? Is it really important when you're dealing with presbyopes?
Yes, I also had a point to add. Before we do the binocular balancing, I have seen nowadays all my juniors, they do not do JCC. Jackson's cross cylinder, nobody does it. After that, if ever we have to do a proper refraction, Jackson cross cylinder is the basic. Then we should be doing the duochrome. Once JCC and duochrome are done, after that we have to do a binocular balancing, which I haven't seen most of them doing. I see only very few, maybe 4, 5, 10% of the patients who are doing it. Rest of the practitioners don't do binocular balancing at all. At the moment we don't do binocular balancing, we are always in for a complaint coming in with from a patient. So from binocular balancing is absolutely essential for anybody to do a proper refraction, especially for presbyopia.
Anita, can I ask a question?
Sure, Lakshmi.
Over to you, Anita.
One of the issues that I had when I, got into practice after graduation was, when you, in an urgency, when you try to just look at the age and prescribe when you are having more patients and stuff like that, then usually what happens is it becomes an overcorrection with age. Okay. So even sometimes like a person who's 57 or something like that tends to accept only plus 2.25 or, around that, Abhinav, not really 2.75 on depending on their, work and stuff. Even like normal people, if they're housewives and stuff, even then they don't tend to accept the ad which is equal to the age. So what would you, what's your comment on that? And, what would you like to tell the people here who are listening? Because mostly people just go blindly with the age as a reference. And this is something that I learned the hard way. So we had to redo the glasses initially quite a bit.
Yeah, so it does happen. My friends, that's the reason why I shared a study which showed that we have so many methods of estimating an addition and add for patient. But at the end of the day, when when the scientists actually did a comparative study of all these, they found that they all are good, but they all give you a tentative addition. The most important thing here is considering the patient's factors. What is his working distance? How much, what is his kind of working, what is his working nature, his physical nature? I have a tall patient with me, and his age is 57, and till now he's comfortable with plus 1.5 add. So why should I change that? And you need to remember, if the patient is not symptomatic and if they are fine, don't rock the boat unnecessarily, as we commonly call it. And that don't disturb the boat, you will fall down, you will sink. So don't disturb the patients who are satisfied, and see their needs, see their requirements, what's their working distance, what they are comfortable with, not with just your theoretical knowledge.
I think thanks, Lakshmi, for bringing that up. In fact, I've also been a victim to that. When you're hard pressed for time and you are like kind of programmed to think that 40 years plus one add, 45 years plus 1.5 add, you go by that dictum so blindly. You kind of 40-year-old, just give him a plus one addition. And Abhinav also brought it out with his case discussion. If all of you had keenly noticed, that person who was 40-year-old never required an addition at all. So most of the times, addition is something which is very personal, I would say. It is not generic. You cannot generalize. It is very, very customizable. What works for one may not work for the other. So you have to work it out with each and every patient. So please take that out of your mind, that going by the age of 40 years, this ad, 50 years, that ad, it doesn't work. I mean, that if you remove that, I think we'll all be good at it. And refraction plays a very, very important role in all of it. It goes without saying. Thanks for bringing that up, Lakshmi. It brought back with so many memories of what I did, very foolish and stupid things that I have done earlier on when I entered my profession. Thanks.
I guess it's such a topic that we actually, all of us did, not only you. I also have done that, and we all have learned by our experiences only, and that's why I call it. What was the moral of the story? That presbyopia correction is actually an art more than a science. So to become an artist, you need that time. You need to give yourself that time. So whenever next time that patient who returns back to you, you immediately, instead of going into that panic attack that, oh, some problem has come, you keep your mind open to the learning, what that case can teach you, and how not to repeat those mistakes in the future patients.
Yeah. So thanks all of you. In fact, since Reshma is here from the industry, I would like to ask Reshma something. You do multiple trips to practices, and with your experience of visiting several practices, how often do you find people making mistakes as far as prescribing addition is, or when they end up calling you guys for redoing a pair of spectacle? Like we have shared our personal experience. This was ages ago, of course, not now. So in the current stage, do you really come across people doing what we did 20 years ago?
Yeah. So so first of all, I would like to thank Optom Abhinav for that wonderful presentation. So coming back to your question, ma'am, so currently also most of the practitioners are following that age versus addition rule. So because of which multiple times we have seen also they tend to forget to check their habitual RX, which is very, very important. So and also the symptoms related to, are they happy with their old glasses? Is there any issues they are facing with their current glasses, which is very important to find out. Then only we can prescribe them higher addition or something. So many times they notice that he is comfortable with a certain low ad, and then they compare it with the age. As per ad, he should be needing more. And the moment they do that, everything changes. Their working distance changes. If they're wearing a progressive, the corridor itself goes narrow in the intermediate area now. So all that troubleshooting and all, everything has to be done, noticing everything. So yes, as we say, as Optom Abhinav already said, it's all about art of dispensing. So so it is like that, ma'am. So almost if you see 30 to 40% of the cases, is the addition is a higher addition is the only issue what I face. So normally we have to reduce the ad, and then the patient is almost happy, with the progressive. So yes, that is the thing, and very well covered in the how to cover up with the how to find out the right kind of addition needed for the patient. Yeah.
Thanks, Reshma. I have one more question. This is from the audience. They want to know, because progressive lenses are specified in different corridor lens also. So which corridor is better, like regular short or extra short, if the customer has more work to do over the laptop? So which one would you recommend?
Can I take the question?
Yeah, you can take that, Bhupesh.
Sure.
And then after that, maybe Reshma and Abhinav.
Well, this is a personal thing from each and every patient, but we have to see that if ever we give them a wider field of vision, they will be much, much more comfortable. So if ever the person who has to work on the larger intermediate zone, we should always give them a ad or a design which gives you a more wider field of vision for intermediate. We have to ask questions from the patients. What is the nature of work? What is it they do the most? Supposing an architect, they need to have a wider field of vision because of the lot of drawings they have to see. So I tend to give them a more wider field of vision for intermediate, not near or distance. Depending upon this, we just tend to ask questions from all our patients. The best thing is you should get into the habit of talking and extracting as much of information as possible from your patients or customers, and then only decide what is best suited for them. Secondly, nowadays we have various height parameters in the same design. If ever a person comes back with a particular type of a progressive what they are using, we should definitely make it a point to make a note of what they are using, whether they are using a 16 millimeter fitting height or a 18 millimeter or a 19 millimeter, and then try and give them the same design or the same fitting height as the initial progressive lens was. Third point is we have to see if ever the person was using which type of a frame or which base curve they are using. If ever their person is using a rimless, so that means we are giving them a polycarbonate lens where the lenses will be relatively flatter instead of a more curvature. So we have to see to it that if we are changing the frame type, we have to match the same curvature of front curvature in the base curve of the lenses in the thing also. So instead of, we might have to give a same base curve as it was given in a polycarbonate lens in a normal CR also. So all those points we have to keep it in mind. What is the initial that person was using, and when we are changing, even if the prescription has actually changed, we should actually minimize the change of the design of the lens so that the patient is not get rocked that easily.
So I would say it's been wonderfully been explained by Bhupesh sir. And simply remember 2-3 points I would say. See, the extra short corridor progressives are primarily for cosmetic correction. Okay, in our practice that we normally see, the extra short corridor progressives, they have very small intermediate zone. आप जितना lens को छोटा करते जाओगे, the smaller the size of the lens, the smaller would be the zones. It's as simple as that. So for a person who's on laptop, you can give them short corridor course, because these days the short corridor lenses are also doing very well. And also, and if not that, then regular progressives, regular corridors is always available as an option. So I would say that for laptop, for intermediate, more of intermediate, give them more area, give them a little bigger frame, give them that opportunity for the lens makers to give you a better intermediate zone.
I hope that answers. Reshma, would you like to add something?
No, not really. So basically, it will depend on whether it's a new wearer or it's already a progressive wearer. For a new wearer, it will depend, the corridor will be dependent on his lifestyle and the frame what he is selected. And for an experience, we'll be taking into consideration his past, like what he's wearing a short. For usually a short wearer, it will always be comfortable in a short corridor. So checking his old glasses, and then if not, then of course, knowing whether he's comfortable with the short corridor for his intermediate area. If not, then maybe we can think of shifting him from short to a longer corridor. So comfort with his old glasses, and then based on that, we can decide like.
Thanks all of you. So we have one question in the chat box wanting to know the difference between office progressives and progressive glasses, the difference between these two.
So should I take that question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So guys, indoor progressives, as I already told you in my presentation, covers your basically your near vision, your intermediate, and your extended intermediate. Now, what is the extended intermediate? Which is something beyond 1 meter, but it is less than your 20 feet. So normally these lenses cover up to a 3 meters of distance, a 10 feet distance, which is of a room size. So the office lenses, since they are working only on the near, intermediate, and extended intermediate, and if you see about the distance vision zone is either not present, or if it is present is very small compared to a regular progressive designs. So the people who find it difficult to adapt to the regular progressive designs, or they find the corridor to be very narrow and they need to adjust their eyes a lot, they actually do very well when they are shifted to indoor progressives or office progressives, because they have a wider viewing angle.
Bhupesh, would you like to add something in your experience about how popular are these office lenses? Bhupesh, you need to unmute.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Well, it all depends on the person's requirements. For a person who's actually been using progressive, if we give them a office lens, they will not be suitable. But if ever we give a person who's been using a single vision lens and we give them an office lens, they will be very, very happy. So it all depends on the person's actual need. And I have been prescribing these office lenses, office digital lenses and all very comfortably to a lot of patients. And they don't have any problem. But only thing is you have to shortlist your patients accordingly.
Dinesh, first message போனோம், அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த கீழே 3 பேர் லிஸ்ட் போனோம். ஏன்னா ரெண்டும் ஒரே இதுல கிளப் பண்ண முடியாது இல்லையா?
Nehal? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I muted.
Thanks.
There are a few more questions, I think, Anita. You want to take them?
Yeah, there's one question that I see. How do you give ad for a tailor as an occupation? Anybody who wishes to answer this?
Abhinav, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. No. See, once again, it's very simple. A person who's tailor, you need to see what are his habits, whether they're working on the machine, which is normally at about 45 to 50 centimeters. So you need to correct for that. And if somebody who is chewing very closely, their working distance is very small. So you need to correct for them. And I would say the workspace lenses work very well for such patients because their range is very small compared to the other patients. They primarily require it for their near vision and for their immediate intermediate up to 1 meter of distance. So you can prescribe such patients with the workspace lenses, which work up to 1 meter of the lenses. Or if they cannot afford it and you want to give them bifocals or some other options other than obviously a single vision reading lenses, what you can do, you can make bifocals in such a manner that on the distance portion, you can correct them for their immediate intermediate vision, and the near segment, you can correct them for their up close reading work. It works as a decent solution for a lot of patients who cannot afford workspace lenses, but yes, still my first preference would be workspace lenses for tailors.
I have a suggestion, Abhinav. You can correct me in case I'm wrong. So where I've seen somebody doing that is, let's say, for example, the correction is +2. What I've seen is if you go for a 2.25, just readers, they use it for, close by work, and they just move the reader a little bit down when they look at the sewing machine.
Yes.
So I'm not sure whether that also would work. This is something that I've seen, so I just wanted to share.
Yeah, that does happen because patients also adapt to it naturally. over a period of time, they learn how to, increase and decrease their ad by shifting their glasses. And it's actually a wonderful point that you brought up.
So this was something that I saw. So, when you give them readers, they know how to adjust it for the stitching part, and then for the machine, then they just keep moving it up and down to change it. And that way, even for distance, if they are e-metrops, all they have to do is just take off their readers. So they kind of helps them as well.
That's very nice, because they know how effectivity of the lens adds to the different powers that you see through the eyes. So it's very beautiful. I mean, I remember people earlier days who used to wear aphakic glasses, especially. So instead of giving bifocal aphakic glasses, they would simply slide down their glasses,
Yeah,
and they were beautiful
exactly.
as well. So
Yeah.
it's very nice.
I just wanted to make a point that, a lot of them kind of trivialize refraction, and being optometrists, this is, the main breadwinner, I can say. For us, of course, we have a lot of other diagnostics and all of that. Yes, but I think, this is such an important aspect for us that we need to really do it well, spend time and do it well. This is my feeling. That we need to not just trivialize it to saying that, yeah, machine pe dalo, click karo, prescribe karo. It really doesn't work that way. I mean, many people can argue saying, how does it work for 90% of the population? Nobody's gone and seen whether all the 90% of population are comfortable with whatever they have prescribed, right? So I guess if you do a good job, that is one way of getting the person back to your practice as well. They know that you're spending time. They know that you're doing a good job. You're really spending time to get the correct prescription. And I think that's something that, I don't know, maybe I'm people like Anita, me, Abhinav, and all are passionate about. I just wanted to get that message across, that it is worth spending that time for some people who just think that refraction is nothing but just, pressing the button and giving prescription.
Absolutely agree to what you mentioned, Lakshmi, because as passionate practitioners, we know how it is and how it sets us apart from the rest of the crowd. It's very easy to click the button and, get out a prescription in a jiffy, but that should not be our, work way, I would say. Customizing it, spending time with your patient, knowing their primary and vocational needs, and prescribe something just totally customized to their needs should be the outlook of every practitioner. And believe me, when you do it and see and perceive, practicing your profession as an art, it takes you to a different level and it sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. So be that unique person, and it is a practice builder in the long run, and people will keep coming back to you. Generations of people will keep coming back to you, and that brings us as practitioners immense satisfaction at the end of the day. So Abhinav, Reshma, and Bhupesh, thank you so much for this very interesting panel discussion after the talk. And Abhinav, it was a wonderful talk as well. Lakshmi, anything that you want to add up on?
Thank you. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Snehal for being here. Absolutely honored, Snehal, to dedicate this to Uncle, for sure. So you're muted, Snehal. You're muted. You were not muted when you were supposed to be.
I know. Not used to so many Zooms like you.
And then I have my dog here saying 1 hour is up. Now you better get up.
I should thank all of you for putting across this very nice gesture indeed. And thanks so much to all of you.
Thank you,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Ram, as well, for being here. Thanks, Ram, for spending time, taking time away, and to be here as well. So thanks, everybody.
Also, Lakshmi, I would like to make the announcement for the next session.
Yes.
The topic for the next session is advancements in progressive edition lens designs by Mr. Damanjot Singh. So we will meet you all for the next session. And until then, wish you all a happy weekend and a happy 75th Independence Day. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jai Hind.
And